Jason. Jason, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
All right. So we all got booted off, which was a great way to start this. And it looks like we've got some attendees still here, which is fantastic. We've got, if you guys would do me a favor and jump down to the chat box and just put your name in there, say hello. Let me know who you are. Let me know where you're from. Tell me if you can read the sign behind me. That would be awesome. Jason, your camera looks like I'm staring into pea soup. Is there something in front of it or? Hello? Jay, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you see your camera?
Yeah, it's not.
And we're just going to wait for Rick to jump back on since we all got booted off.
I'm back.
There's Rich. What's up, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. That was really interesting. Fascinating to get kicked off the webinar halfway through. I never had that happen. I've done some pretty egregious things on webinars too, and I've never actually been kicked off. So I'm not sure what I said, but all right. We've got some folks here from Manchester. We've got some people here from West Hartford. We got some people here from Bristol. So pretty awesome. All right, cool. So it looks like I'm going to get rolling just because we are a couple minutes behind schedule. So just to those of you guys who are joining us, who are coming here and don't know who we are, who maybe saw an ad on Facebook or signed up. My name is Matt Miale. I run the Miale Team. We're based in West Hartford, Connecticut, but we service really just about the entire state. We've got 17 full-time agents that work on our team who help buyers and sellers all over the entire state of Connecticut. Last year, we were the #1 producing real estate team in Hartford County, #1 in West Hartford and several towns around Hartford County. We were in the top 3 in the state of Connecticut, and we really are just now having the opportunity to expand our presence into other markets. So we've been doing this a really long time, and we thought under the circumstances with, everybody staying at home and, nestling in and adapting to our new normal, we thought it'd be an awesome opportunity for us to get out there and tell everybody a little bit about what we do, how we do it, and give some folks out there that are thinking about jumping into the real estate market some insight into what they can expect. So I am joined here by 2 of my esteemed colleagues, good friends, and folks that I've been doing business with for a long time, Rich Witt and Jason Kilduff. Jason joined us with a camera, which is fantastic. What's up, Jason?
How you doing?
Richard Witt is an attorney, also based in West Hartford. Rich, I'll let you give an intro. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you're here with?
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Richard Witt, and I've got 2 offices, 5 paralegals, 1 office in West Hartford Center and 1 office in Plainville. And I've been doing this for 21 years, exclusively with real estate, commercial and residential. And we love working with the Miale team due to their professionalism. And we look forward to the seminar tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. And also we've got Jason here. So Jason, why don't you tell everybody who you are and where you're from?
Perfect. So hello, everyone. I'm Jason Kilduff. I'm the owner of Ward Kilduff Mortgage. We have offices in Canton and Madison, and we're a residential mortgage lender. We've been in business since 2006.
Thanks, Jay. So our objective today is really to give everybody who's joined us an opportunity to get a really high-level overview into what it looks like to buy a property, to buy a house. And we understand we've got people who are first-time buyers. We've got people who are investors. We've got folks joining us who have been, in the market before, maybe have a house to sell. This is really going to be kind of like home buying 101. I think this will probably take us about 30 to 45 minutes. This is our first time doing a virtual home buyer seminar. We do these all the time, but this is our first time doing it in this format. So bear with us as we navigate some of our technical changes. But I'm going to put up a couple of slides here and we're going to work through it. I'm going to ask if anybody here has any questions. I'll keep the chat box open. Just go ahead and type your questions in. and we'll try to get to them. If I miss any of them, I've got somebody that'll text me the question so that I make sure that I can get back to it. So any questions at all, put them right in the chat box, okay? So I'll go ahead here and get you guys started. And you should be able to see. You guys should be able to see our welcome to home buying in today's market. So anybody let me know make sure that that you're seeing that. That would be great.
See it perfectly.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. So here's what we want to cover today. First of all, we want to take you guys through who we are. We've already done that. Secondly, I want to give you a high-level overview of what the home buying process looks like. 4 key things that you guys really need to know as buyers. We're going to talk a little bit about your mortgage financing, and Jason's going to cover what that looks like, the current state of the market, current state of lending, what are the things that are most important for you to know while borrowing. Also, we're going to introduce you to your attorney, Richard Witt. Rich is going to take you guys through what the closing process looks like, some of those more legal questions that a lot of people have, both around contracts, title, the type of properties that you'll be buying. And then I think it's really important in today's climate really to give you guys an insight into what the impact of COVID-19 and the coronavirus has been, and what we've been seeing over these last couple of weeks as we've been adapting to it. And then we'll open it up to some frequently asked questions that we'll cover and we'll answer for you, and then any questions that you guys have. So first of all, we like to run through this slide here, and I'm not going to go through each and every step, but what I want you guys to understand is that there is a pretty predictable path through the home buying process. And because we've done this thousands and thousands of times, we know exactly what to expect. But if you're a first-time buyer, obviously these things are brand new to you. And so we like to lay it out so that it's real clear what you can expect to happen next. So when you look at this path, it really is a path, and you understand that buying a house it's really a process, not an event. It's something that takes a little bit of time. It's one step at a time, but it doesn't just happen overnight. It's not like walking into a store and buying something off of a retail shelf, or going into, pick out a bed and, talking to a furniture salesperson and buying a bed. There's a lot of things that you're going to want to learn through the process, and a lot of things that as you engage in the process, you'll become more and more adept at as a buyer. Our job as your real estate agent and as your real estate team is to help educate you through each and every one of those steps. So you'll see we've laid this out. The first step, you hire an exclusive buyer's agent. That's an advocate for you. That's somebody who's really going to work on your behalf. And the idea behind a buyer's agent is that that person is a professional counselor and a professional consultant. Basically, they're your navigator or your Sherpa through this process. So as you see, you've got 25, 30 different things that you've got to address. A real estate agent's job is to know what questions you should be asking before you've even thought to ask them. And a really good real estate agent can give you context around the many transactions that they've been involved in. So it becomes about experience, context, and then understanding the market. Also, a really good real estate agent is going to negotiate on your behalf and make sure that you get the best possible deal and help you get what you want. And that's really what our job is. Ultimately, as you go through that process, you're going to wind up having to talk to a mortgage lender. And we've got Jason here that's going to talk to you guys a little bit about that. When you get to that conversation, the mortgage lender is going to help you understand what the best financial decisions are in the context of your overall financial plan. So it's not just about getting a pre-approval letter that says you can buy up to $300,000. It's really more about getting an advocate that says, well, just because you can buy up to $300,000 doesn't mean you should, because we all have other goals and other things that are built in. So a really good mortgage advisor is going to give you guidance around that. Then the fun part, you get to go out and look at houses. And that's usually what people hire us for, and they think that we do. But it's really, as you can see, one small part of the process. So you'll take a look through this, and these slides will be made available along with the recorded version of this webinar. So you can go back to it and obviously contact any one of our agents on the team if you have any specific questions about it. So the 4 really, really important things to know when you are in the process of buying a home is that there are really these four key things, these four key events that are going to happen. The first one I touched on, which is you're going to hire a real estate agent. The best way to do that is to interview. It's just like if you were going to hire an assistant or hire somebody to come and, redo your kitchen in your home or build you a deck on your home, or even if you were just going to hire somebody to come and, be your house cleaner. You'd want to talk to more than one person and really get a good idea of what that person brings to the table, what their experience is, what their value is, how do they like to work? Are they the right kind of fit for you and your personality? And you want to make sure that you really vet that out, because your real estate agent is going to be somebody who is hand in hand with you through the process, and the person that you really want to be able to ask them the most important questions and feel like they are working on your behalf. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to have to go and obtain a mortgage. And as I talked about, we're going to hear from Jason a little bit later about what that process looks like. What are the most important things that you want to have in place in order to go and get that mortgage? What are the things that you should and shouldn't do if you know that you're going to be buying a home soon? You're also going to have a home inspection. And this is one where I think it's really important for me to pause for a moment. When I talk to first-time buyers, and in my experience, every person that decides that they want to buy a home, there's often some fear that they're going to buy a money pit, or that they're going to get a lemon, or that they're going to buy a house, and as soon as they move in, it's going to need way more money than they're prepared to put into it. And here's what's good about this process. It's actually inherently built to prevent that. The home buying process is not designed for any one person to get screwed or any one person to have the bad end of the deal. The home buying process is really designed, especially in the state of Connecticut, to create a winning outcome for both parties. That doesn't mean that someone else has to lose in order for you to win. And that home inspection process, which is typically 10 to 14 days, is built in to give you as a buyer enough time to really investigate the property that you're buying. It gives you all the time that you need to check every outlet, turn on all the faucets, open all the windows, open all the doors. And what that does is it relieves you of that responsibility while you're looking for a home. You can really focus while you're looking for a home on what's going to work best for you, your family, whomever it is that you're looking for a house with. Do you like the neighborhood? Do you like the condition of the home? And the home, you'll know confidently that when you do find the right home and negotiate the right price, you'll have a period of time where you can really check under the hood and make sure that it's the right house for you, that there's no surprises around any corner. And we work with exceptional home inspectors on our team, people that we've vetted and we've worked with for years, who do an incredibly diligent job. They're very thorough. They provide multiple page home inspections. Usually they're anywhere between 30 and 50 pages of information. And that's really that process. It's really important to know that you really can't buy a lemon. You're going to have clarity and understanding about what it is that you're getting into. The other thing that people worry about is step number 4. And that's usually based on the idea that they don't want to overpay. So we obviously know that the real estate market is an ever-changing market. The prices go up, prices go down. And at any moment in time when you decide that you're going to buy a home, the value of that home will be based on what the market conditions are. Our job in helping you find the right home and then helping coach you through the home inspection is to make sure that you get the right home for you. The bank that you're going to hire to get the mortgage is going to make sure that you're not paying too much for that home. And they do that through a process called an appraisal. So when we're negotiating on your behalf, our job is to get you the best deal we possibly can. However, if for some reason you've negotiated a price and the appraisal value is less than what you've agreed to pay, the bank is going to catch that. And that's done through a third-party objective analysis of the value of the home. So the other thing that people get concerned about is, am I going to overpay? And the reality is you really can't overpay when you're getting a mortgage, because the mortgage bankers do not want you to pay too much for that home or more than it's actually worth. The last thing that happens is the closing. And you'll see in the closing that when you get to that point, you're going to have attorney Rich Witt help you get through that. And he's going to then, oh, and it looks like we've got somebody joining us. There we go. So there we go. There's Rich. So when you get to the closing table, attorney Witt will walk you through what that process looks like, what that title process looks like. And at that point, you then have a closing, and that's when you get to take possession of your home. All right. So Jason, are you there with us? Oh, it looks like we lost Jason. So Rich, why don't I jump to you real quick?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever.
Talk to us a little bit about the closing, about what are the most important things that that the attorney does, and what are some of the things that a buyer should know about that process?
Well, the most important thing I want to let any buyer know is that you've got a team with you from the beginning to the end. And literally, we start that process the day you send us the contract. If there's a contract that needs attorney review, we gladly do that for no additional charge. Myself personally, I immediately call the client. I then send a comprehensive email that includes the entire team. And the Miale team and us have been doing that from day one, where we include the transaction coordinator, the agent, the loan officer, the paralegals involved, and myself. And then literally we're all on the same page from beginning to end. My cell phone is also included on that email, and I'm gonna make myself available like the agents 7 days a week. So there literally is, if there's an emergency or you drive by the home and you see something's happening that upsets you on a weekend, you can call myself, just like you can call the agent. Literally, our job is to protect you, just like Jason was saying, and I mean, Matt was saying, along with Jason, who will talk a little bit, there's safeguards built in to protect you. One is the appraisal, which we talked about. The other one is where we come in, and that's where we do a title search. Statutorily, we have to do a search of the land records. We hire a title company that will go back 40 plus years to make sure that all liens that are on that property, all issues with that property, all land use issues with that property is rectified by the time you get to the closing table. And that's our job. Sometimes it takes a day to get something rectified. Sometimes it takes weeks to get it rectified, but we will not close until you get what's called clear title. Your bank will not close without clear title. We also have to issue 2 types of title insurance. One is to protect the bank from any unknowns after you close, and one is to protect the homeowner from any unknowns once you close. So you're even protected post-closing for any unknowns, including boundary disputes after the closing. Our paralegals are also working with you from beginning to end to help you get your homeowner's insurance policy, to work with any conditions that your bank may need. Literally, you have a partnership team that if one is busy, we'll pick up the slack and vice versa. And we all work on getting those conditions in. And we also coordinate the closings, work with your lender, coordinate the date to close, coordinate the homeowner's insurance, and coordinate all the adjustments that are needed at the time of the closing with the other attorney on the other side of the transaction. We also ensure and work with the agents to make sure that any inspections issues you had were done properly by a licensed Connecticut contractor, and we make sure those receipts are in place before the closing is even scheduled. Basically, we're there to protect you. Finally, we get the bank package. The bank package comes to us. The numbers are disclosed to you 3 business days in advance. So if there's any issues, even when the lender discloses the numbers to you, our firm is available to explain adjustments for taxes, the bank's fees, our fees, and we have plenty of time to go through that with you. If we have a question, we can then go to the lender and try to get clarification for you. At that point, we then get the closing package. We give you the final number of what you have to bring to the closing, dollar-wise, and that's either sent to us by wire or a bank check. And then we fully go through the closing papers with you. Usually takes about an hour. I always say at every closing, there's not a single bad question I've ever heard from a client, and that's how I learn is from my clients. So I encourage everybody to speak up and to make sure you're getting the product that was promised you. I don't let a client leave without having all their questions answered. You also get a copy package with my cell phone on my business card of everything you just signed, along with the promise from us that we'll hold that package for 7 years at our office in case you misplace anything. But again, just like Matt says, you have an entire team that is working with you to protect you, and we're the closing attorney part of that partnership.
What I love, Rich, about what you just talked about is there's so much to what you guys do. But the reality for most buyers is a lot of that is really transparent. They don't actually see most of that, right? So most of
That's
that
correct.
stuff that you guys are doing, as far as the buyer's concerned, right? That's all happening behind the scenes.
All
You guys are
happening
doing all that title work. You're communicating with the lender. You're doing all that stuff. But the buyer is really focusing on getting through the process and really planning to move into their home that they want to live in, right? You guys are doing all that heavy lifting, and really it's quite a lot of work that goes into making sure that a buyer gets into a property with all of those assurances that you just listed out.
That's absolutely correct. And literally, I am probably known as the pickiest attorney out there. I've searched over 2,000 titles myself. I literally will go through that. My staff, literally, we have a meeting every morning. We go through every title search. We go through it line by line. I look at the parameters of the property. I look at the liens. I go through what's needed to clear title. If I have any doubts, I get title counsel involved from the title company and get a second opinion. And I get write-offs from the title company to protect the client. So literally that full file is documented in writing. And when you close, literally you get it with clear title, or I don't close until we can get clear title. Sometimes it might delay things by a week or two, but I tell my clients, that's what you're hiring this team for, is to protect you. And literally we will make sure that happens and get you a home that you can be safe with and have no worries with in the future.
Awesome. So Rich, do you ever have to get involved in like inspection negotiations, or are there ever issues at closings that come up when, you know,
almost every day, Matt? Every day we're literally, there's issues where the realtors have brought it as far as they can go, and then sellers dig in their heels or buyers dig in their heels, and rightfully so, each feels they're right. So literally the attorneys and I get on the phone, try to work out a compromise. We had a situation yesterday where my seller had to close. There were 2 open permits. Well, West Hartford Town Hall is closed, and we ended up closing with a $7,000 escrow. 24 hours later, the town of West Hartford did a virtual inspection with my client's iPhone and inspected the 2 items. That's a first. And we literally closed out remotely 2 inspection items. Open permits were closed 24 hours of the closing, and my clients got their $7,000 at the same time I was giving them the rest of their money. That's how fast it happens. So
that's amazing.
We're trying to think outside of the box. Yeah, and exactly.
You know, this is the new normal, right? You
That's
know,
right.
iPhones, FaceTime, et cetera. Well, it takes somebody who can adapt. So I've got another question for you, Rich. This is from Melissa in Ridgefield. She says, what are the most important things for a buyer or seller to pay attention to so that they have a smooth closing process?
First off, get the right agent. The Miale team is the right agent. When I see a contract from a Miale team member, literally every detail, the more detailed the contract, the better. When a contract has missing items or owner of record or items to be determined at a later date, that's not what you want. Contracts I get from the Miale team are literally reviewed. They're all trained. Literally, when I look at them, I rarely make a comment unless I think maybe the lender is going to have a problem with a credit or something like that. But generally, you have to start with an agent that's going to get those things up front. My old boss in New Haven used to tell me, Rich, everything leads back to the original contract and how it was drafted. And if we have a good contract to rely on, it helps me advocate on your behalf because everything was written in that contract in the buyer's favor. So I can then show the other attorney, this is in writing, this is a valid contract, and this is why we should prevail. And 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get an attorney say, you're absolutely correct. So it all goes back to the contract. And generally, if a well-written contract is done, as well as, just as importantly, a well-written inspection issue with the resolutions, and if it's all written properly, things generally go 9 out of 10 times very smoothly. It's when these things are ignored or not done properly is when we have issues, and when there's gaps, that's the problem. And if things are left vague on inspection issues, I implore that things are specified to the nth degree, because then there's no room for wiggle room. You literally want to be as specific as possible. You also want to put on your inspections that you want somebody specific to that field doing the work that you're asking to be done. You don't want a general handyman, and that's no insult to a general handyman, doing heating and air, cooling, or plumbing, or electrical work. You want somebody licensed in that specific field. And those are the things, if that's done and that's in the contract, and like I said, almost the majority of all the Miale contract all cover those things perfectly. We don't have any problems.
Well, the feeling's mutual, Rich. Thanks for all the
Thank
accolades. We love
Yep.
seeing you on the closing table too, because we
Yep,
know you're
thank
going to watch out for the client. So
Yes, we will.
so if I've got Jason back, it looks like he popped in again. Jason, are you there? Or did we lose Jay again? All right, we'll come back to him again. So I wanted to take a few minutes and just kind of cover, and I will ask you, Rich, to chime in here. And just so you guys know, we've got a couple other questions here that I will address here as we get to the end. So we're going to open it up for some questions. So I do see your questions. Just want to let you guys know that I am going to get to them. So currently, right now, we are obviously dealing with an unknown entity that has entered the real estate market, the economic market, really every one of our lives is being impacted. And number one and foremost, we want to let people know that had planned on buying a home this year, that are still thinking about buying a home, that we are focused, number one, on everyone's safety and the safety of the people that work on our team, that work with us, and the safety of our customers and our clients. And so with that in mind, we have made some pretty bold efforts to make sure that any time that there's any interaction with people, that it's done in a safe manner. That includes wearing masks, gloves, having hand sanitizer constantly available, and really adhering to those rules of social distancing as much as possible. That said, we are in a business that the governor in the state of Connecticut has deemed as essential. And the reason for that, and it's important to understand, is that real estate and transactions around real estate have a massive impact on the economy. And that impact would be felt so dramatically in the sense that so many people's lives are hinge upon those real estate transactions not just happening, but people who need to move, who are in absolute necessity, have to transact and go from one place to another, or in the midst of a transaction. And so the impact so far has not hit us in the sense that the transactions that had gone under contract prior to the coronavirus and COVID-19 coming into our market are moving forward as expected. We are closing, as you heard Rich say earlier, he had 5 transactions closed today. We had 34 transactions closed this month. So
Wow.
We are still very much in business. That said, we are obviously anticipating that there will be a slowdown of some kind in the number of showings and the way that we're doing showings. So that said, we have actually taken some pretty bold efforts to outline what showings are going to look like for us, what our agents are prepared to do on behalf of our customers. And effectively, we're able to go out and virtually provide you with, as a buyer, with all the same services, just through a virtual means. And then once we've identified the right property, if you are somebody who needs to take action now and who really needs to make this happen before we're on the other side of this virus bell curve, we are in a position to adhere to safety standards that will keep you safe, keep the sellers of the home safe, and get you into the home that you need. So we just wanted to put that out there, that there's been a lot of really, really smart people working on this. So this isn't something that we've thrown together overnight. This is something that a lot of thought has gone into, that's been reviewed by experts on, both on the medical side and also in our industry, to make sure that we're adhering to the demands and the questions that people like yourself might have. So it does look like we've got Jason back. So I'm gonna jump back to Jason. So Jason, can you hear us? Yes. And I've got you there, sort of. All right. Well, Jason's got some technical difficulties today, but let me say this on Jason's behalf. So Jason is one of the best mortgage lenders that I've had the opportunity to work with. He has been serving the Miale team since 2008 as one of our premier and primary lending partners. Jason is the owner broker of Ward Kilduff Mortgage. I wouldn't even attempt to tell you to dabble in the extent of knowledge that he has around the mortgage business and around what that business and opportunity looks like today. He's one of the smartest guys I know, and absolutely comes from a servant's heart position to help his clients get the best opportunity in the mortgage financing space. So when the time comes for somebody to get a mortgage, there's really nobody that I feel more confidently will handle that and will answer the questions of the client so that they get the right outcome for them. So it looks like, Jason, are you there on the phone?
I am. I dialed in. I'm having some technology issues here.
All right, no problem, man. So Jay, why don't you tell us what we need to know right now around the mortgage business, and not just in this climate, but if you were a brand new buyer and you're giving them advice about what it is that they're looking to do, what's the most important thing for a new buyer to understand?
Well, the thing is it's never too early to start, right? We want to get you pre-qualified and understand like what the bank will approve you for and what your budget is, right? We want to talk about a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. We want to see what you have planned over that time frame to see if there's major purchases coming up. Maybe you have kids going to college. Maybe you're going to have a child. So we want to understand you and like what your objectives are. In a lot of cases, we will start early, right? And maybe you're not thinking about buying for another 6 months, but we want to look at your credit and kind of set you up so that you have the most favorable terms and conditions available to you for when you're ready to purchase. A lot of the lending environment has to do with credit. So, maybe there was a hiccup or maybe there's something on your credit report that I can help you to clean up over the course of that next 3 or 6 months, which really translates into real money, right? There's a huge difference between a 650 credit score and a 740, but we can help you improve that credit over that time frame, and it translates directly into dollars, interest rate, closing costs, things like that. So it's really important to start as early as possible.
Jason, what are the most important questions that somebody who might be wanting to buy a house ought to be asking?
Well, there's a lot of concern with down payment, and there's some misconceptions regarding that, right? A lot of people think that you have to put down a certain amount or 20%. And in all actuality, there are a couple programs out there that we could get you into a house with nothing out of pocket, or 3% or 5% or even more if you have the availability. But it's not that there has to be a significant amount put away. It just all comes back to what options are available to you, what your time frame is, and obviously we're going to work with you and make sure that you're in the best fit as far as mortgage product goes.
So how many buyers come to you with 20% down as a down payment?
I would say maybe 20%.
Okay, so and is that common for first time buyers, or what's the typical first time buyer bringing to the table as a down payment?
First time buyers are typically going to have anywhere between 3 and 10% to put down.
So what kind of loan programs are out there for first time buyers?
So there's a couple, right? FHA, which a lot of people will refer to as, I heard about a first-time home buyer program. It's not really just for first-time home buyers, but a lot of first-time home buyers tend to use that product. So that's where it kind of captured that relativeness to the first-time home buyer. Or conventional loan with 3% down. There's a USDA, Department of Agriculture, which offers 100% financing. Now that has some limitations to it, income restrictions and location, right? It has to be in a designated rural area, which some areas you wouldn't think are that rural, but they are. Like Avon would qualify.
What qualifies as a designated rural area?
It's less than 10,000 in population. So basically, you have anything that touches 91 is completely off the grid. But Avon qualifies, Simsbury doesn't. In my opinion, wow. Simsbury feels a little bit more rural than Avon, but the population is there in Simsbury, and it's not quite there in Avon.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's always an option. 100% financing. It's a great program. Veterans, 100% financing if you're a veteran. That's the best program, right? It's really a benefit that we give to the veterans, and it's excellent.
Jason, we got a question for you. It's from Corey in Bristol. She says, can you help somebody who does not have perfect credit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And
Yeah, absolutely. We can either help them with a plan to set them up, or we can get them done. The lender guidelines out there are, typically we can go down to a 580 relatively easily credit score for FHA. Some banks will go down to a 500, but ideally I like to try to work with you a little bit to get the score up there.
Okay. Got it. So Jay, if I was going to be buying a home right now, I heard recently that interest rates were down at 0%. What could you tell a home buyer about how that actually impacts what they might expect from a mortgage?
Yeah, so interest rates are not, there's a lot of misconception. I'm fielding a lot of calls on that. Interest rates are not at 0%. What the Fed did is when they lowered the interest rate to 0, or between 0 and 0.25, that's the overnight funds rate. So that's what banks borrow money from each other at for an overnight loan to, securitize capital and things like that. So that's a short-term interest rate. Now that will impact credit cards, revolving lines of credit, things like that, but it's not going to impact long-term debt like a 30-year mortgage. The rates are at historical lows right now for 30-year mortgages, right?
Like what are rates going for these days? I know they're volatile, so you have to do your disclaimer that you can't be held to it.
They change every day, sometimes numerous times within the day, depending on what the market's doing. So we've seen 30-year fixed mortgage rates as low as 2.99 and as high as 4% over the course of the last 2.5 weeks. So it's really gone from 3 to 4, and it's kind of stayed in the middle of that.
So what is the value for a home buyer to work with a broker like yourself, somebody who's got access to a lot of different lenders versus going directly to their local bank?
So I get that question a lot, and it's valid, right? And the way I always explain it to people is when you go into your local bank or Bank of America or Citizens or People's, you're actually going to a full retail spot, right? That's like walking into West Farmers Mall and going right into Nordstrom's. What we have access to is wholesale pricing, right? So we get a wholesale rate sheet, right? The equivalent of, because we're buying it basically in bulk, right? We can actually get you a better deal with banks than you could be able to get on your own. Our margins are not as high, and they don't need to be as high as a full retail outlet.
Right, because you don't have all the bank tellers and all the desks and the fancy lighting and all of that stuff.
Right, Super Bowl commercials, things like that.
Right. Jason, we've got another question here. This question is for an owner-occupied multifamily. I heard I need a 15% down payment in order to go conventional. Is that, talk to us just about what's available for multifamily purchasing in general. That's obviously a method that you and I've worked with a lot of clients who've done that. So if somebody wants to buy a property and live in one unit and rent it out, what does that do as far as the mortgage is concerned?
So a lot of people will go FHA in that scenario, right? Because you can get into an FHA loan 3.5% down.
Okay.
With conventional, right, there's going to be tighter guidelines for sure.
Okay.
So you are looking.
Somebody wants to buy. So somebody wants to buy a multifamily property and live in one unit and rent out the other. They can do a 3.5% down payment on that property.
Right, through FHA.
Through the FHA.
If they want to go conventional, they're looking at least 15% on a 2-unit.
Okay, got it. Okay, but they can. But if they want to go conventional, they do have to do a 15% down payment. That's the question that I'm getting here.
Right, that is the answer.
Okay,
that is correct.
All right, very good. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm gonna take us down through the rest of this. So, any final pointers, Jay? What's the best first step for somebody? You said it's never too early to start. So they just call you, contact you. How does somebody know when they're ready?
Yeah, so they should definitely reach out, right, and at least start the conversation. The earlier, the better, right? You never want to find a house before we've spoken and we've gone through the process and we've looked at what the bank could approve you for and what you're able to afford personally, right? Everybody's going to be a little bit different based on their lifestyle and things like that, and they're going to have a comfort level, and we want to make sure that you're shopping in the right price range. So it's never too early to start. I would suggest, obviously, reach out to me. I'm sure that we'll post my contact information. Cell phone is there in the material. Yep. But if you're out there writing it down, I'm just going to give you my personal cell. I want you to feel free to shoot me a text or give me a call anytime. That number is 877-716-3090. And just start as early as possible. Let's plan it so it really is a really great situation for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the
Thanks,
time.
Matt.
So I covered a little bit about this. It looks like somebody just asked again, how is the current COVID impact on my closing? And really the reality is, just to kind of revisit this, so far for deals and transactions that are under contract, we are moving forward practicing safe guidelines that have been laid out both by the governor's office and through our industry professional associations. And that includes things like, Richard, why don't you tell us what some of the changes have been in closing practices since the beginning of this and now? How is that changing now?
Okay, so what we do on most of our almost the majority of all our sales, we send out the package UPS overnight with a UPS return pack. The client will then go, all the UPS stores have notaries with witnesses throughout the state of Connecticut. We give them a list of local notaries. They get the documents notarized in a safe environment with proper distance. Then they UPS the package back to us. We then UPS the package to the buyer's attorney, who has already sent all their checks the day before to us with an escrow letter. So the day of the closing, I'm already sitting with all the checks that are going to go to my realtor and my sellers, sitting in my office at the same time that the buyer's attorney has got my closing package, and we have simultaneous escrow letters. It's been working out pretty amazingly. On the buy side, we have a lockdown policy at our multiple locations for the health of our clients and the health of our staff. Some are working remotely. People can only come in with an appointment, and they call a number outside of our locked door. Anything else can go through our mail slot at our office. At borrowers' closings for a purchase, we're only letting the actual buyers in. We're asking that the loan officers do not attend, or the realtors. We will UPS the realtor's commission check at our cost to them the same day as the closing, so they'll get it the next morning. And that way, we also ask that the buyers, whether there's been any medical issues in the last week or so, anything that we should know, we limit it to the buyers themselves. No children, no family members, no friends, anything to that effect. We are also issuing, it sounds silly, but we got 400 blue pens. We literally issue a brand new pen to each borrower at each closing, and then the pens are disposed of after the closing, including the one I used. Lastly, and most importantly, when somebody walks into our office after they get into the locked office, we ask them to scrub into the bathroom for at least a minute or two. Then they literally watch me do the same, and then we go to the closing conference room and do the closing.
Spectacular. I mean, it's literally, I just love hearing that there's a system behind it. And I think that should give people a lot of confidence that, this isn't something that's been thrown together willy-nilly. There's actually a process to make sure that people are safe while they're going through this process. Obviously we're navigating these new times here, but it's great to hear that. Thanks for taking me through that, Rich. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of frequently asked questions here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of run through some of these questions, answer them at a high level, but then I'm going to encourage you that have more questions to reach out either to me, to Rich, or to Jason directly. We're available to answer any of your questions on our cell phones. A lot of you guys asked some questions, and I'm going to run through those as well. So first question is my credit where it needs to be? And, the best way to find that out is to literally contact Jason, and he can do a soft pull on your credit report, which is not a credit pull that will actually impact your credit score. It's basically like a quick view of the rough idea of where that is. A lot of people are concerned about having their credit pulled because they hear, hey, if I get my credit pulled, it's going to make my score go down. There actually are ways that you can do that where it won't impact your credit in any notable way. So the best way to find out the answer to that is to just contact Jason. What does it cost me to hire you? Awesome question. So as a buyer's agent, and obviously between Jason, Rich, and I, we have different fee structures, but as a real estate agent, one of the best things about the way our system is structured is that you get to hire a professional consultant and counselor through the process, and it doesn't cost you, the buyer, anything. It literally, at no point in time will you write a check to hire a professional real estate agent. So you get to have somebody like myself that's done this literally over 1,000 times come and work on your behalf with all the resources of my team, my entire team of trusted vendors and relationships, and it doesn't cost you any money. And the reason that that happens is that the way real estate fees are structured is that listing agents are the ones that get paid by sellers. So sellers hire listing agents, and there is a single commission that gets paid to a listing agent. The way that our multiple listing service and our cooperative broker exchange is set up is such that when a listing agent decides to utilize the shared collaborative multiple listing service, they must also agree to share the commission fee that they're getting paid. And that's what allows somebody like me to become your trusted buyer's agent and then go and find you the right house for you. So ultimately what that means to a potential buyer is it really doesn't matter to me financially what house you buy, as long as it's the right house, because we're going to be buying a house that's being listed through the multiple listing service. And so my fee is going to be paid by the seller's listing agent. So it really doesn't have any direct cost. That said, it is fair to note that on average, typically a real estate agent is going to get paid somewhere between 2 and 3% of the sale price. That's typically what the exchange rate is available to buyer's agents. So next question is, do I know for sure where I want to live? I don't know if you know for sure where you want to live, but if you don't know where you want to live, what you might want to do is, my advice to people is after you've met with and hired the right real estate agent, spend some time going to open houses. And obviously right now, open houses are not open, but even doing drive-bys in particular neighborhoods will give you a ton of insight into how you feel about a particular neighborhood. The best way to do it is print off a list of homes that are in a specific area and just go do some drive-bys. As you're doing that, you're going to start to get a sense of, do I like the way the homes look here? Does it have sidewalks? Do I want sidewalks? Is this too busy? Is it too rural? Is this the type of neighborhood where I'd like to live? So those are the types of things that we suggest to people. Obviously, the first step is identify who you want to work with as a realtor. Then they'll help you figure out where the right place to live is. How much house can I afford? Again, another great question for a lender. When you ask that question, what you're really saying is, hey, I've got a specific budget in mind, a certain amount of money that I'd like to spend every month. And is that reasonable for me to assume that I could get a mortgage that would cover that? What types of mortgages are out there? Another question, great for our lender here, Jason. Lots of different types of programs out there. As he mentioned, USDA 100% down mortgage, FHA federally backed and insured mortgage, conventional mortgages with more down payment money, all of which are going to impact the term, the rate, and what your payment is. How much money do I need to put down? We covered that pretty extensively, but really you can buy a house with as little as 0% down and as much as you want in order to influence what your overall payment is. How long does the whole process take? Great question. I always tell people it goes a lot quicker than they think. I would say 9 out of 10 people that I meet who are first-time buyers always tell me, we're not in a rush. We don't want to hurry. And that's awesome. And then once you've actually gotten engaged in the process, and as I said really early on, it's a process, not an event. Once a buyer really gets interested and gets out into the market, starts looking at properties, usually it's pretty typical that they're going to start to see some things that they like. And once they see some things that they like, they start to try to imagine and realize that they might want to make this happen for themselves. On average, I would say the entire process from the moment you hire a real estate agent and really commit to getting out there to the time that you close probably takes anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And that's typical. That said, lots of clients that we work with will start the process earlier because they want to take their time to get educated, and that's fine too. So ultimately, it's never too early to start having the conversations, but once you really decide now's the time, probably take you between 30 and 90 days for you to find the right house and actually move in. Some people do it in 30, some people do it in 90. It's really just about how committed you are to the process. How do I get started? Well, you contact me, Jason, or Rich. Any one of us can give you guys guidance about what the best first step is. Very typically, the first place to go is to contact a real estate agent. You can call the Miale Team. at our main number, 860-539-2255. That will be posted and available on all of the slides that are out there, and also on the social media when we share this video, and in our email. So again, that's 860-539-2255. That's our main office number. So let me address some of these other questions here that I've got, and then we can wrap it up. So it looks like, all right. So Sarah in Manchester says, I met an agent a while ago and they won't show me properties until I get pre-approved for a mortgage, but I'm not really sure I can qualify yet. And we probably don't want to buy for another year anyway. But should I see houses I want to see? Oh, but I do want to see houses. How do I get to see them without getting pre-approved? It's a great question, Sarah. And here's what I would say. Ultimately, going and looking at properties before you're pre-approved is not going to really help you or be to your own benefit. Ultimately, you may wind up going to look at things, and you may wind up spending a lot of time looking at properties that you may not be able to afford, or that maybe you can afford much more and be comfortable with, and you may be looking at properties that aren't going to meet your needs. So the best place to start is always by talking to professionals who've been through this process before, because we are actually here to make sure you get what you want. So I would strongly encourage you to talk to a mortgage lender, and make sure that that mortgage lender can give you some outlines. You know, there's no commitment to have a conversation, and I think that that's really important to put out there for those of you that are feeling concerned that you're going to talk to somebody and they're going to try to put you in a corner. I can give you 100% certainty. You could call Jason any day of the week, and Jason's going to give you the best possible advice, and he's never going to ask you to sign a contract with him or make a commitment. He's just going to make sure that you get the best information for you to move forward. So there's really no downside to having that conversation and helping yourself get educated. But thanks for the question, Sarah. It's a really good one. All right, let's see. So Corey asks, can you back out of buying a property if it doesn't appraise? Awesome question, Corey. So yeah, the answer to that is you can back out of buying a property, but more often than not, when a property appraises and it's lower than what the contract price is, more often than not, the seller is going to be pretty committed to coming to some level of compromise. Not always, but it's typically in both parties' best interest to come up with a reasonable conclusion that's going to allow that property to sell. Ultimately, the seller put the house on the market for a reason. They want that property to sell. And if the appraisal value doesn't come in at what they expected to sell it for, they may have to reevaluate what their plans are. But more often than not, they still want to have the buyer that decided to buy the home buy it. And so that low appraisal would open the door for a conversation around whether or not the value of the home and the actual sale price could be revisited. So that's often a conversation that has to be had. And when you have a really good real estate agent, they're going to be able to walk you through that. Okay, let's see. Question from Allison. I'm hearing a lot about lack of inventory of homes for sale. Is now a good time to look, or should I wait until there's more available? Awesome question. So, you know, here's what's interesting about the market. So the market is it's an ever moving, evolving thing, right? So when there's a lot of homes for sale, buyers have lots to choose from. When there's not a lot of homes for sale, buyers don't have as much to choose from. But you really can't time the real estate market. It's like trying to time when to catch a fish, right? So if you're standing at the end of a dock and you decide you'd like to catch a fish, and you have a fishing pole and you have a worm and you've got a line, standing there with the pole out of the water saying, I'm going to drop the pole as soon as I think a fish is coming by, it's probably not going to work. So the right time to start is as soon as you know that you really want to engage in the market, because you're always going to be engaged in a market at any moment in time. So whether you're engaged in a market with high inventory or you're engaged in a market with low inventory, the reason that you engage in the market shouldn't have anything to do with what the market is doing, unless you're a professional investor. It should have to do with what your life plan is. If you're planning on buying a home, you should engage in the market and start getting educated. A good real estate agent, a good lender, and a good attorney will counsel you to make sure that you don't overpay, that you get the right property at the right time, irrespective of what the market conditions are. So awesome question. Thank you for asking that. All right, let's see. We've got, I haven't seen a lot of homes for sale. This is from Eric. Should we put our home on the market first or find a house to move to? Another awesome question. Really good question. So, you know, that is a personal decision that everybody who's in that situation has to make. And I would say it's 50-50 how people decide to do that. The right thing to do is obviously have a consultation with your real estate agent about what the current market climate is in your particular town and where your home is, and figure out whether or not you're in a market where houses are selling quickly, or you're in a market where houses might be sitting longer. In a really urban market with a lot of activity, you know what? It might make sense to list your home because your house might sell real fast. So it might make sense for you to look for a home first before you list it, because you can anticipate that house is going to go as soon as you put it on the market. However, if you're in a really rural market where not that many houses sell in a given year, it might make more sense to get your house on the market first and still start looking, because you can typically tell, looking at what's historically happened based on what the MLS says, what our market analysis says. You can typically tell whether a home's going to be on the market for a while or whether it's going to sell quickly. But that's a real specific question that is much more driven by market conditions and then your own personal financial aptitude to potentially buy a home before you sell yours. But a great question and a great conversation to have with your real estate agent. All right, so next question from Sarah. How many houses should I look at before buying one? That's again, another great question and a personal one. It really depends on who you are and how motivated you are, and how dialed in you are on exactly what it is that you want. So I've had clients that have looked at as few as 4 or 5 homes. I've had clients that have looked at 1 home, and I've had clients that have looked at 30. It really runs the gamut. Ultimately, though, there's no right answer. There's no right number. The right number is however many homes it takes for you to get comfortable with what it is that you're buying in the current climate and the current market. And again, when you have a really good real estate agent, they're going to counsel you through that process. They're going to give you insight into what you've seen, and they're going to help you land on a conclusion that makes you feel comfortable with the house that you've bought. So, all right, let me take a look here and see if there's any other questions. What if someone is embarrassed about what they might see on their credit score? All right, good question. So, you know, I think that's again, a personal issue. What I can tell you is that any conversation that you would have with me, with Jason, or with Rich would always be 100% confidential, and we're here to help. So, you know, if there's something in your credit score or something in your situation that you're kind of embarrassed about, or that the best people that you could talk to would be somebody who could confidentially counsel you through it. Because chances are we've seen some situation like that before. Chances are in our very, long past, I mean, between the 3 of us, we probably have 50 years worth of experience in the market. There's a really, really high probability that we've counseled somebody through something similar in the past, and we probably have some experience. So there's really nothing to be embarrassed about. I've seen just about everything. So, another great question. Who is responsible for making sure permits are closed? Awesome question. You as a potential buyer are going to want to make sure that you and your real estate agent are having conversations about permits and about whether or not they are closed. That is something that's going to come up through the home inspection process. That is something that an appraisal will check on, and certainly that's something that your attorney is going to check on. So there's a number of different places where that issue comes up, but you as the buyer, you're going to want to make sure that if that's important to you, that's something that you double check on. So great question. All right, I think I've gotten through all the questions here. So ultimately, guys, I hope this has been an awesome experience for you. I hope that you have gotten your questions answered. I hope that we covered a lot of material for you. We're going to be doing this pretty regularly. This is the first of many as we roll through this new normal of life in the virtual world. Getting very accustomed to the Brady Bunch thing with the boxes all around me. So if at any point in time, any of you guys need to have a question answered, are looking for any kind of insight, anything at all, you've got 3 really strong advocates here, a ton of experience, and we're always happy to help. So my tremendous gratitude for all of you guys joining us. We're going to make this available as a recording. I'd love for anybody who joined us to, post something up on social media, maybe tag the 3 of us in a post. I attended a great webinar. Give us some gratitude. That would go a long way toward helping us in our business. And I hope this has been valuable for you guys. So, and you can find any one of us on Facebook. You can also, you can friend request me. You can text me. That's my cell phone number right there. That's Jason's cell phone number. That's Rich's cell phone number. We're probably the 3 most accessible real estate guys out there, and ready to get to serving. So Rich, any final parting words or?
Just thank you very much for having me as part of the seminar. Appreciate it. And thanks everybody for being with us today.
Yeah. Awesome. Jason, any last thoughts before we head out?
I just want to thank everyone for coming on the call today. And well, I'm on a call. You guys are on a webinar, but but feel free to reach out anytime. Really, I mean, any question that you have, I'm glad to answer it. And like I said, you have my cell phone. It's there, and please feel free to use it. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your night. Thanks for coming. We're going to hang on here just for a few minutes and make sure our recording gets done. And but you guys, this has been great. Very much appreciate it.